Hello, this is Mark, and I'm coming back at you with part two of the harvest of the earth. Sorry that I was cut off, but I had some technical issues going on. So I'll come back at you with part two, the harvest of the earth, no more sea. So where we left off was um, we see that this world of the sea is now coming onto the earth. Uh, and we said the world, the sea is the wicked and the wicked governments that comes out of here, that comes out of this sea, and it's coming onto the land. Remember, I said the land is symbolic of those who are believers or those that are saints, and this is where everything now begins to rev up, and we're down to the last 3.5 years. So we're seeing where both now the sea was represented of the wicked, this government coming out of the sea, and they are now um, colliding with the world of the saints. All right, and we found out that this world of the sea, or this government, headed by this beast that is made up of leopard, bear, and lion, and 10-horn kingdom. Okay, and it was given to this kingdom, this government by the devil, was given to him great authority, to this beast great authority and great power, and it was given to him to wage war with the saints and to overcome them. Okay, that's um, what you're seeing here in chapter 13. All right, now we're going to continue on. I'm going to pick up now because there's another part of this we need to see, which is very important. This is why we're calling it the harvest of the earth. So let's continue on, because now we're about to see something else that you need to see, which is pretty powerful. So we're going back to chapter 13. Remember, to this beast, it was given to him to rage, to blaspheme God, blaspheme his name in his temple, and those who worship in it. Okay. So now we're going to pick up Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. And it says, Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and spoke. And he spoke as a dragon. So now we're seeing another beast. However, this one is not coming out of the world of the sea. This one is coming out of the earth. Remember what I told you. The earth is symbolic. Believers. Alright? So this beast is coming up amongst its own kind. That's why it looks like a lamb. Remember I told you the Lord carries many symbolic images in this book of Revelation. And definitely one of them is that of the lamb. So this beast here resembles that of the lamb. Okay? This is why there's a lot of deception going on at this time. Because he looks like the lamb. However, he speaks as this dragon. Okay? So he's coming up amongst the world of the believers. Alright? Verse 12. He exercised all the authority of the first beast in his presence. And he makes the earth, listen, he makes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the beast whose fatal wound was healed. So he makes the earth. Remember I said the earth was symbolic of the believers. So he's referring to the world of the believers. Alright? Because the world of water are already deceived. Alright? They already have the assignment of that of the devil. of this dragon. However, this world that's of the earth, which are believers, okay, he caused that world of the believers to worship this beast. Okay, let us continue on. All right, and he makes the earth symbolic of the believers, of those who dwell in it, come out the people, to dwell in it, to worship the first beast, whose fatal wound was healed. He performed great signs, so that even makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth in the presence of men. And he deceived those who dwell on the earth. And because of the signs which it was given him to perform in the presence of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth, remember the key, those who dwell on the earth, to make an image to the beast who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak, and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And he causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the freemen and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. And he provided that no one will be able to buy or to sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding, calculate the number of the beast, for the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. Alright, so what are we seeing here? What we're seeing is now a second beast coming out from the earth. And his prime mission was to deceive his other fellow brethren, the believers. That's what he did. And he caused them to worship this beast, or this world government. He caused them to worship him. Okay? And he caused them to even receive a mark in their forehead. Or on their forehead or in their hand. This is the world of the believers. They were deceived. The people that's in the ocean, they're already deceived. They are governed by the power of the dragon. So they are already deceived. However, the earth, who are the inheritors of the earth, they have become deceived by this second beast who looked like a lamb. So what he's saying is, he resembled Christ. Alright, that's why they were deceived, because he caused miracles to come down, such as causing fire to come down out of heaven. So his influence was on the religious world, or on those who were believers. Alright, he caused them to be deceived by this. And he caused them. And remember what this beast did. This beast, some of the first beasts, blasphemed God, blasphemed his name, and those who blasphemed his temple, and those who worshiped in it. Okay? So that means the people that became deceived on the earth, they joined in with him in blaspheming God, blaspheming his name, and blaspheming those who worship in God's temple. Okay? This is what you are seeing. you're seeing now the Great Rebellion, which is made up of two parts. First, first is that of the governments, or the ruling government, world powers, along with the religious factor, talking about believers. That's why it's called the Great Falling Away. All right. This is what Paul was teaching in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. This is also what the Lord was teaching in Mark chapter 24. And we're going to go there right now to see this, because you need to see this. So we go to Matthew chapter 24. So Matthew chapter 24. And remember, this started off with his disciples asked him, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of your coming in of the end of the age? And notice what the first thing the Lord told him was not to be deceived. Notice he didn't say look for a rapture. No. The first thing he told them was not to be deceived. Deception will be on a level that if it were possible, the Lord stated in Matthew 24, that they would even deceive the very elect. Now, why won't the elect be deceived? Is it that they can't be deceived? It's not that they can't be deceived. What it is the Lord will make sure his elect have the truth. That's why they won't be deceived. Because they will have the truth and they will know what is to unfold. So they will be prepared when this time is to come. They won't be unaware, caught unaware. All right? They will know. So, go down to verse, let's say verse 9. Then they will deliver you to tribulation and will kill you. And you will be hated by all nations because of my name. So the Lord told his disciples that you will be delivered to tribulation. Talking about to these nations. To the nations. Alright? Who the kingdom has been given to. Because of his name's sake. They went out preaching Christ. Okay? And the nations hated them for it. Okay? The nations hated them. Because he testified of their end. Okay? Which is through Christ. Alright? And he says, and they will kill you. The nations did exactly that. They killed those apostles. They were killed. And then listen what he says. And they will kill you. And you will be hated by all nations because of my name's sake. So this is not talking about Israel. Israel is not hated because of Christ's name's sake by all nations. No. It was the apostles that were hated because of Christ's name's sake. Alright? Because they preached Christ. Israel is not going around preaching Christ. Alright? Verse 10. At that time many will fall away. After the apostles are killed. Okay? After they're killed, it says many will fall away. They won't be able to handle that. Many of the people, once those apostles fell away, many of them could not handle it because they died brutal deaths. And the nations were turning on them also. So they actually fell away. They lost heart and fell away from the faith. Okay? Then let's continue to read. And He said, at that time, many will fall away and will betray one another. So this is showing that when they fell away, they betrayed one another and hated one another. This is talking about the world of believers. These believers fell away and they hated those who remained true to the faith, and they hated them. This is referring to the great falling away. This is how it's going to be. Verse 11. Many false prophets will arise and will mislead many. So this is why we're saying we're referring to the religious world or the believers. And it's continuing saying, and then on top of that, many false prophets will continue to arise. Now that the apostles gone, there's no one to correct the error. So many false prophets will arise and will mislead many. And let's do verse 12. Because lawlessness is increased, most people's love will grow cold. But, the Lord says, the one who endures to the end, he will be saved. This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in the whole world as a testimony to the nations, and then the end will come. So this is letting us see right here, that the Lord is also gave to us a little insight on what is to come, what is to take place before his coming. So I didn't read no more chapter 24, but if you continue to read, the Lord gave us a sign when we see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. Then let the reader understand. So we are talking about these are the signs which are to take place at the end. And this with chapter 13 is actually pinpoint. We're seeing now the uprise of both the religious factor and first the political or the governments, and then that of the religious factor. They will join in the rebellion to blaspheme God, his name, and those who worship in his temple or his tabernacle. They will turn. These believers will turn. They will be deceived by this false prophet who looks like a lamb or look like he is the Christ, resemble the Christ. They will be deceived and they will turn around. You would think, ain't no Christian's going to do that. That's why this is referring to the great falling away. They will do it. They will hate their brothers, their mothers, their sisters, and their brothers. And they will forsake them. And probably will have many of them killed because they will stand true to the name of Christ. Because it says power was given to this government or to this beast to reign for 42 months. And he was the power was given him to over the saints for 42 months, to wage war with the saints and to overcome them. So we're seeing this harvest of the earth. Now, let's continue on. Let's see now, once this great these two worlds heated and collide in this great, if you want to call, battle or ongoing slaughter. That's why it says in chapter 13 at the end, chapter 13, and it said, here is the perseverance of the saints. It's showing you're going to have to endure. I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but it's to prepare us and to prepare one another for this. Now, let's go see the harvesting. Now that all this is going on, great intense, the harvest, the great tension is that of the raging war is from the devil onto the saints. This is not of that of the Lamb. The Great Tribulation is not the wrath of God. The Great Tribulation is the wrath of the devil. His kingdom raging war against the saints. Okay? However, then the Lord, when he comes back, he will wage war on this Antichrist, this dragon, and his kingdom. Now that's the wrath of God. On those who have turned and forsaken his precepts, those that were deceived, and this beast of this Antichrist and this dragon, false prophet, then that's the wrath of the Lamb when he returns. That's his wrath. Alright? So let's see this in chapter 14. Now it says, chapter 14, verse 11. I just wanted you to see something real quick. So 13 was the two worlds colliding, the world of the sea and the world of the earth, and seeing a great deception by this Lamb who deceived the people to worship this one world religion. I mean, this one world government headed by the Antichrist. Okay. All right. So chapter 14, verse 1, it says, Then I looked, and behold, the Lamb standing on Mount Zion, with him 144,000. So see, here's the real Lamb. I just wanted to read that part so you can see that. Here's the real Lamb. So now let's drop down to verse 14. So Revelation 14, verse 14, it says, Then I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and sitting on the cloud was one like a son of man. We know it's Christ, having a golden crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. And another angel came out of the temple, cried out with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, Put in your sharp sickle and reap, for the harvest, for the hour to reap has come, because the harvest of the earth is ripe. Then he who sat on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, and he also had a sharp sickle. Then another angel, the one who has power over fire, came out from the altar, and he called with a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle, saying, Put in your sharp sickle and gather the cluster of the vine of the earth, because her grapes are ripe. So the angel swung his sickle to the earth and gathered the cluster of the vine of the earth, and threw them into the great winepress of the wrath of God. All this time, we see the wrath of God starts here, after the seventh trumpet is blown. All this time, people think the wrath of God is in the beginning. No. But the wrath of God is seen here in chapter 7. Okay? And this is what we call the harvesting of the earth. And the winepress was trodden outside the city, and the blood came out from the winepress up to the horse's bridle for a distance of 200 miles. So this is where we see the actual harvest of the earth. We don't see the sea. We don't need to harvest the sea. There's only one place the sea is going to go. Alright? You don't need to harvest. The whole thing is going to be done away with. Okay? This whole sea of where the wicked resides. Okay? So it's only the harvesting of the earth where everything got mingled up, intertwined, with the wicked got intertwined with the righteous. We're going to see this now in Matthew chapter 13. So let's go with Matthew 13, because we see another image of this harvest, of the harvest of the earth, where it gives more detail so we can see a more clear picture of what's going on. So let's go to Matthew chapter 13. I'm just trying to be a little thorough so you can get a good idea, understanding what was going on here. So we go to Matthew chapter 13. Now, this is the harvest of the earth, but this is the explanation. Okay, he gave it in a parable up front. Then his disciples come to him and ask them later, when they left the people, and ask the Lord to explain to them the parable of the tares. So here we go. Then he left the crowd and went into the house, and his disciples came to him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the tares of the field." He said, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man, and the field is the world. And as for the good seed, these are the sons of the kingdom, and the tares are the sons of the wicked one. Of the evil one. And the enemy who sold them is the devil. And the harvest, when is the harvest? Is the end of the age. When is the end of the age? That's when the Lord returns. Okay? And he makes everything right. Alright? Is the end of the age. And the reapers are the angels. So just as the tares are gathered up and burned with fire, come out because of the great indignation of the wrath of the Lamb. Okay, what we just read in Revelation chapter 13. So shall it be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send forth his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all stumbling blocks. Notice that, all stumbling blocks, all those who cause his people to stumble. This Antichrist, this world government, those who forsook their faith and turned on the saints and joined in with this false prophet to blaspheme God, his name, and his temple, and those who worship in it. He removed it all. And those who commit lawlessness, and will throw them into a furnace of fire. Where's the furnace of fire? It is the lake of fire. Okay? In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ear, let him hear. Alright, so we have just seen this. Now, let's sum this up. I want you to see this particular part. Back to Revelations now, chapter 20. Now we see the Lord come back with his judgment. This is chapter 20. So I'm not going to read this whole thing. I just want to see certain places. This is the Lord. He cast the devil into the bottomless pit. He cast the false prophet along with the Antichrist, or this beast, and his kingdom into alive into the great lake of fire. Alive, it said, into the lake of fire. And then it spoke of him in verse 4. It said, "Then I saw thrones, and they sat on them judgment." I'm sorry. I said, "And I saw the souls of those who have been beheaded because of their testimony of Jesus and because of the word of God, and those who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received the mark on their forehead and on their hand, and they came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. And the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were completed. This is the first resurrection. All right. So we know the first resurrection is when the saints come back to life and reign with Christ 1,000 years. Let's look at now the second resurrection, which we know are for the wicked. Now I want you to see something. So, and we know the great, if you're standing at this great white throne of judgment, that means you are alienated from Christ. You being judged for your sins. All right. So verse 11, 2011. Then I saw a great white throne, and him who sat upon it, from whose presence earth and heaven fled away, and no place was found for them. This is referring for the way it was structured and how it was governed. That's totally changed now. And it's verse 12. And it said, and I saw the dead. Where does dead come from? And I saw the dead, and the great and the small, standing before the throne, and the books were open, and another book was open, and which is the book of life. And the dead were judged from the things which were written in the book, according to their deeds. Verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it. Here's the sea again. It gave up its dead, and they were judged. Okay? So this is the world of the people that reside in that world of the sea. They now are judged before the throne of the Lamb. Okay? And death and Hades gave up the dead which were in them, and they were judged, every one of them, according to their deeds. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And if anyone's name whose name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. So now we see this. We get to sum this up. So as you see, we do not bring any of our preconceived ideas. The book will interpret itself. So as we see, when it says there is no more sea, we are not talking about physical sea. We are not talking about a whole new heaven and earth being rebuilt. No, what we're talking about basically is being pretty much renovated, okay? Or the way it's been structured and run, that world will cease at the time of the sounding of the seventh trumpet. And at that time, when that change is taking place, is because it's going to be a tense heating up of tribulation. This is part of the change. I hate to tell you, but this is part of the change. It's going to be tense. It's going to be hard for the saints. This is why we're trying to get the word out. So those, it's going, like those said, he's going to come with the heavens going to be shaken and the earth is going to be shaken. Both are going to shake, and whatever can be shaken and moved will be moved. So make sure you're grounded in the truth. Make sure you're grounded. If your foundation is off, it could be very well possible you could be deceived by this beast and by this lamb, false lamb that is to rise up from the earth. Okay? So, Hopefully this has been enlightening. Hopefully that you could understand what was said to you. Now, hopefully I communicated as clear as possible. Um, I'll be bringing out some more lessons, so hopefully that this has been